Number 1. US B61 bombs in Europe, 1961, Los Alamos and Sandia National Laboratories. American weapons scientists delivered the B61, a variable yield gravity bomb that could be dialed from less than a kiloton to over 300 kilotons depending on the mission. The innovation wasn't just destructive power, it was flexibility. One bomb design could serve tactical battlefield strikes or strategic city killing, making it the Swiss Army knife of nuclear weapons. NATO adopted the B61 as the cornerstone of its nuclear sharing mission, forward deploying hundreds to European air bases. For 6 decades, the B61 family dominated NATO's theater nuclear arsenal. At the Cold War's peak, over 2,000 B61 variants sat in hardened vaults across Germany, Italy, Turkey, the Netherlands, Belgium, Greece, and the UK. The bombs became the physical manifestation of American extended deterrence, proof that an attack on Europe meant nuclear retaliation. But forward-deployed nuclear weapons created a target on every host nation. Soviet and now Russian planners knew exactly where NATO's bombs were stored. Every WS-3 vault became a preemptive strike target, making the bases themselves potential ground zeros in a crisis. During the Cold War, accidents and near misses exposed the danger. In 1966, a B-52 carrying 4 B-61-type hydrogen bombs crashed near Palomares, Spain, scattering plutonium across farmland. Security breaches at European storage sites happened repeatedly. Fences cut, alarms disabled, protesters reaching within meters of vaults. By 2026, only an estimated 150 B-61 bombs remained in Europe, ward down from Cold War peaks, but each one still represented a first-strike temptation and a political flashpoint. The bombs alone couldn't start a war. You needed aircraft certified to carry them, and NATO had several. Number 2. Legacy F-16 dual-capable aircraft. 1978, General Dynamics Fort Worth. The F-16 Fighting Falcon entered service as a lightweight air superiority fighter, cheap and exportable to dozens of allies. But a subset of F-16s underwent special certification, structural reinforcement, wiring for nuclear weapon interfaces, and training for low-level nuclear strike profiles. These became NATO's dual-capable aircraft, DCA in alliance jargon. Belgium, the Netherlands, and others operated DCA-F-16S, giving non-nuclear states a role in NATO's nuclear mission. For 40 years, DCA-F-16 Washoe provided the backbone of NATO's theater nuclear delivery. Pilots trained to fly nap-of-the-earth profiles, toss-bomb the B-61 to escape blast radius, and navigate without GPS in electromagnetic warfare conditions. The system worked because F-16S were ubiquitous, maintainable, and politically palatable. But the F-16 was designed in the 1970s. By the 2020s, Russian integrated air defenses, S-400, S-500 systems with look-down radar, made low-level penetration suicidal. Survivability collapsed. War games revealed the problem starkly. RAND simulations showed DCA-F-16S attempting nuclear strikes against defended targets suffering catastrophic attrition, up to 70% losses before weapon release in some scenarios. Even if a jet survived to drop, iraging airframes and outdated avionics meant pilots had minutes to react to threats that modern fighters could see and counter automatically. Belgium and the Netherlands began retiring F-16S without immediate replacements, creating a DCA capability gap NATO couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, 2 NATO states were flying an even older nuclear platform. Number 3. PA-200 Tornado Nuclear Strike Jet, 1974, Panavia Consortium, Britain, Germany, Italy. The Tornado IDS emerged as Europe's answer to deep strike interdiction. Variable geometry wings for high-speed, low-level flight, terrain following radar, and heavy payload capacity. Germany and Italy configured Tornado squadrons specifically for NATO's nuclear mission, certifying them to carry B-61 bombs and penetrate Warsaw Pact airspace at treetop level. The Tornado wasn't stealthy. It was fast, low, and purpose-built to deliver a nuclear bomb and escape before anyone reacted. Tornado nuclear squadrons became NATO's most capable DCA force during the late Cold War. German Luftwaffe and Italian Aeronautica military pilots trained relentlessly on nuclear strike profiles. The jets could dash at near supersonic speed, just meters above terrain, defeating early warning radars through sheer altitude and speed. For 3 decades, Tornado was the gold standard. But the jets were designed in the 1970s and built in the 80s. By 2026, Tornadoes were 50-year-old airframes held together by expensive maintenance and dwindling spare parts. Germany's Tornado fleet faced a crisis. Structural fatigue grounded jets without warning. Replacement parts required custom manufacturing. Training hours dropped because flight-worthy aircraft were too valuable to risk. Italy faced identical problems. Both nations announced Tornado retirement schedules, creating an urgent need to transfer the nuclear mission to a new platform. The DCA mission couldn't wait. B61-12 bombs were being upgraded and deployed, but without certified jets to carry them, the weapons were useless. NATO's nuclear credibility was hemorrhaging with every grounded Tornado. The replacement was already in production, the first fifth-generation jet certified to go nuclear. Number 4, F-35A, NATO's new nuclear backbone. 2006, Lockheed Martin Fort Worth. The F-35A, Lightning II, rolled out as the most expensive fighter program in history, designed around stealth, sensor fusion, and network-centric warfare. NATO members lined up to buy it. But in 2024, the F-35A achieved a milestone: official certification to carry the B61-12 nuclear bomb, making it the first fifth-generation stealth fighter capable of delivering strategic nuclear weapons under NATO's sharing mission. Germany ordered 35 F-35s explicitly for nuclear sharing, replacing Tornado. Belgium, the Netherlands, and Italy followed, all procuring F-35A fleets with DCA capability baked in. The UK announced 12 F-35s dedicated to nuclear roles, re-entering a mission it had abandoned decades earlier. NATO's nuclear credibility was being rebuilt around stealth. But credibility cuts both ways. A more survivable nuclear platform doesn't just deter. It lowers the threshold for use. If NATO leaders believe their jets can strike and survive, the calculus of nuclear escalation shifts dangerously toward usable weapons. Arms control experts raised alarms. F-35A stealth allowed first strike scenarios Russia couldn't ignore. NATO jets could theoretically penetrate air defenses, destroy command nodes, and escape before retaliation. Moscow began deploying counter-stealth systems and announced new nuclear doctrines, explicitly citing F-35 DCA deployments as threats. Far from stabilizing deterrence, the F-35A nuclear mission risked triggering Russian pre-delegation of launch authority and hair-trigger postures. The better the jet, the worse the strategic stability. But even the most advanced jet is useless without the infrastructure to hide and launch it from. Number 5, NATO nuclear bases and WS-3 vaults. 1984, U.S. Air Force and NATO infrastructure planners. When the Weapons Storage and Security System, WS-3, was installed across European air bases, hardened underground vaults built directly beneath aircraft shelters, designed to survive near-miss nuclear blasts and store B-61 bombs under American custody. Each vault had blast doors, intrusion detection, and fail-safe locks. The system allowed NATO to forward deploy nuclear weapons on Allied soil without transferring custody until war began. WS-3 sites proliferated across NATO Europe. Bases in Germany, Italy, Turkey, Belgium, and the Netherlands hosted the vaults, with U.S. personnel controlling access while host nation air forces provided the delivery aircraft. The arrangement satisfied political requirements. Non-nuclear states participated without owning bombs, and military needs were met. But WS-3 sites became the most obvious targets in any conflict. Russian intelligence knew the locations. Satellite imagery tracked construction. Every vault was pre-targeted by missiles designed to destroy them before NATO could launch a single nuclear-armed jet. In a crisis, WS-3 sites faced impossible math. Raising a B-61 from vault to aircraft took 15 to 20 minutes under ideal conditions. Longer if protocols were followed strictly. Russian Iskander-M missiles from Kaliningrad could hit sites in Belgium or the Netherlands in under 8 minutes. NATO planners quietly acknowledged that in a surprise attack, WS-3 bases might be smoking craters before a single DCA jet loaded a bomb. The infrastructure designed to enable nuclear sharing had become a liability, and even if jets loaded successfully, they couldn't launch without political authorization. Number 6. Nuclear Command, Control, and Dual Key Authority. 1962 NATO Nuclear Planning Group formation. The alliance created a command structure to manage shared nuclear weapons without transferring ownership, the dual key system. U.S. forces maintained custody and presidential authorization over American B61 bombs. Host nations controlled the aircraft and crews. Both had to agree to release. Complex authentication codes, hardened communication links, and fail-safe protocols ensured no single actor could launch unilaterally. The system balanced deterrence with control. For 6 decades, the dual-key system prevented unauthorized use and reassured allies. NATO's Nuclear Planning Group coordinated targeting, rules of engagement, and crisis protocols. In exercises tested the chain, from political consultation in Brussels to cockpit-level weapons arming. No accidental or unauthorized nuclear launch occurred under NATO custody, but speed and consensus are incompatible. In a fast-moving crisis, cyber attack, decapitation strike, or confused firefight, getting 32 allies in Washington to agree on nuclear release could take hours NATO wouldn't have. Scenario planning exposed the nightmare. If Russian forces overran the Baltics in 72 hours, when would NATO authorize nuclear use? After Tallinn fell? After Warsaw was threatened? Waiting for consensus risked losing the capability entirely. WS-3 sites overrun, jets destroyed on the ground. Acting without full consultation risked alliance fracture. The dual-key system, designed to prevent rash decisions, it might also prevent any decision at all until it was too late. Command and control had become command paralysis. But not every NATO nuclear system required 32 nations to agree before launching a strike. Number 7. UK National Nuclear Forces and F-35A return. 1968 Royal Navy Polaris submarines. Britain fielded its first continuous at-sea nuclear deterrent, ballistic missile submarines that could survive a first strike and retaliate. By 2010, Trident replaced Polaris, giving the UK thermonuclear warheads deliverable from submarines anywhere on Earth. In 2025, Britain announced a return to air-delivered nuclear weapons. 12 F-35A jets would be certified for B-61 type bombs, rejoining NATO's DCA mission after a 40-year absence. And the UK's nuclear force became NATO's only independent European sea-based deterrent. 4 Vanguard-class submarines ensured one was always on patrol, invulnerable and ready. Britain declared the force committed to NATO's defense while maintaining sole national control. No ally or adversary could predict or prevent a British nuclear response, but sole national control meant Britain could launch without NATO consensus or refuse to launch even if NATO demanded it. Independence created strategic ambiguity that could stabilize or shatter in crisis. The risk was political fracture. If Russia attacked Estonia and the US hesitated, would Britain launch unilaterally to preserve NATO credibility? If Britain refused, would that signal the alliance's end? Scenario exercises revealed dangerous dynamics. 3 nuclear decision centers, Washington, London, Paris, could contradict each other in a crisis, with devastating consequences. The UK's independence strengthened deterrence in theory, but risked catastrophic miscommunication in practice. Submarines couldn't consult Brussels before firing, by design and by danger, and France had built its force with even more independence. Number 8. French Force de Frappe. Total independence. 1960 Sahara Desert. France detonated its first atomic bomb, declaring nuclear independence from the United States. Charles de Gaulle built the Force de Frappe, strike force, with submarine-launched ballistic missiles and air-launched nuclear cruise missiles carried by Rafale fighters. France's doctrine was explicit: exclusively national command, no NATO integration, and first-use options if French vital interests were threatened. France would defend Europe on French terms, or not at all. France maintained a credible second strike capability. 4 ballistic missile submarines, 1 always at sea, plus Rafale jets armed with ASMPA, cruise missiles carrying thermonuclear warheads. French nuclear doctrine was deliberately ambiguous, signaling willingness to strike first in extreme scenarios. It was NATO's wildcard deterrent, but total independence meant total unpredictability. France consulted NATO on conventional operations but reserved the right to launch nuclear weapons without alliance input. No dual key, no political consultation. French president alone held launch authority. In war games, French independence created nightmare scenarios. If Russia invaded Eastern Europe and France threatened preemptive nuclear strikes to defend vital interests, would that deter Moscow or trigger Russian escalation before NATO was ready? If France launched without U.S. approval, would America retaliate on France's behalf or abandon an ally who acted unilaterally? French strategic autonomy was a deterrent force multiplier, but also a potential alliance killer if Paris and Washington drew different red lines in a crisis. Yet even France's arsenal was dwarfed by the strategic forces pledged to NATO's ultimate defense. Number 9. U.S. and U.K. strategic systems, NATO's final backstop. 1964, U.S. Strategic Air Command and Royal Navy. While tactical B61 bombs sat in European vaults, intercontinental ballistic missiles and ballistic missile submarines formed NATO's ultimate guarantee. America's triad, ICBMs in silos, SLBMs on Ohio-class submarines, strategic bombers, how could annihilate adversaries from U.S. territory. Britain's Trident submarines added a European-commanded second strike force. These systems weren't forward deployed or shared. They were the final answer if theater nuclear weapons failed or were overrun. For 60 years, strategic systems underwrote NATO's existence. Even if every B-61 in Europe was destroyed and every DCA jet grounded, SLBMs on patrol and ICBMs in hardened silos remained untouchable. The message was final. Attack NATO and you face total annihilation, regardless of what happens on European soil. But relying on strategic systems meant accepting Europe's nuclear devastation before America retaliated. Forward-deployed weapons were meant to prevent escalation. Strategic weapons only mattered after escalation had already destroyed Europe. NATO's strategy contained a fatal contradiction. Theater nuclear weapons, B-61S, DCA jets, WS-3 vaults, existed to keep war limited and deter Russian aggression early. But if those systems failed, NATO's only remaining option was intercontinental annihilation. SLBMs and ICBMs that would trigger Russian counterstrikes against American and British cities. The escalation ladder had only 2 rungs: local nuclear use that might spiral out of control, or strategic exchange that guaranteed mutual destruction. There was no middle option, no off-ramp, and no one knew which step would be taken until it was too late. 8 systems, 3 nuclear powers, 1 alliance, and 1 miscalculation away from World War III.